Passat arrived on Falmouth Road for orders on the 10th of June 1938 from Port Victoria in South Australia after a fast voyage of 98 days. The master, Captain Niels Eriksson, received orders from the owner's broker, Clarksons of London, to sail for Hull for the discharging of about 4,600 tons of wheat. After 9 days of sailing from Falmouth, the Passat was met at the mouth of the River Humber by the steam tug Englishman, who towed her up to Hull and into the Alexandra docks for discharging. On July the 18th, the cargo of 59,037 bags of wheat was out of the holds, and instead about 1,400 tons of sand ballast was taken on board. Sails were again bent under, and the vessel was ready to go to sea. This time at least, the crew members from the Åland Islands were happy because the destination was for Mariehamn, the capital of the archipelago in the northern Baltic. The departure from Hull was delayed for a couple of days because of southeasterly headwinds. On July the 20th, Passat was towed out by the tugboat seamen from Grimsby, and it is here that the film starts. As we can see from the views of the deck and the rigging, it is real fine summer weather when the vessel is towed out of the Humber into the open sea. Some of the crew are hoisting a staysail, helping the tugboat a little with the speed. Others are hoisting an upper topsail by handling the halyard winch. The carpenter is coming as usual with his oil can. It was his job to see that all winches and gear was well oiled and greased. We can see the yard and sail slowly raised. A passenger is coming to give a helping hand at the winch. More sails are set. One man is loosening the gaskets on the lower course, going out on the foot rope. On the starboard side, he finds it easier to simply walk out on the yard. Many old masters did not like that kind of acrobatics and regarded it as unseamanlike foolishness. The main course is set, the bunt lines overhauled, and the sails sheeted home on deck, although there is hardly wind enough to fill the big sail. The lady will now soon be nearly fully dressed. When we see the foreroyal being hoisted, a sailor is standing above the mast overhauling the bunt lines. The royal yards were not worked by winches, but hoisted by ordinary blocks and tackles, worked by hand or by a capstan. Now the tug has left her, and she is sailing with full set of canvas, with well-trimmed sails and yards, heading for the Skå on the other side of the North Sea. Now it's time to attend to the anchors, to hang them onto the cathead, ready to let go if needed when coming over the North Sea into the narrow Danish and Baltic waters. That heavy operation is commanded by the chief mate, assisted by the second and most of the crew. Chief Mate Westerberg we can see with his white cap and dark patrol suit. In fine weather it is no problem to cut the anchors, but it could be a very difficult and dangerous job in bad weather when coming out of a sheltered port right into a rough sea with the heavy 3-ton anchors swinging wildly against the bow. We are now at sea, doing the usual routine work, such as washing the white paint. It was very important to have the vessel clean and ship-shape, for in Mariehamn, the owner, Captain Gustav Eriksson, will come on board and inspect his vessel. He had been a shipmaster himself for about 15 years and knew his vessels in the smallest details. A crew member is washing his working clothes, doing it in his free watch. Maybe it is his dirty dungarees, today high fashion called jeans. A bird has landed on the forecastle taffrail, tempting the ship's cat with a fresh meal. A passenger steamer is going by. In this water, it was of little importance, but out on the oceans, it was a big happening to see and to meet somebody from the rest of the world. Now we see the broad back of the master, Captain Nils Eriksson, on the poop. He was a nephew of the owner Gustav Eriksson, son of Eriksson's brother, Captain Axel Eriksson, also a sailing ship master. Nearing the Danish coast in calm weather, they traditionally call on a Danish fisherman in hope of getting some fresh fish for dinner. The basket of fish is hauled on board the Passat and going back on board the fishing vessel with the usual pay. Gin, Doberman, tobacco, cigarettes, and maybe some cigarette papers. All to the extreme satisfaction of both sides. A happy young girl passenger is showing us a flat fish and is looking forward to a delicious meal. Nearing the Skå in misty weather, they are sounding the depth under the supervision of the master and the second mate. We see them standing beside the Passat's wheel box with the name of the vessel carved on the sides. People who visit Passat at Travemünde today find that the original wheel box is missing. When ship owner Edgar Eriksson, son of Gustav Eriksson, sold the Passat back to Germany in 1951, he claimed the box for the Nautical Museum in Mariehamn. The mate is ordering the clewing up of the crowjack, ready to go about with the vessel. Tacking was impossible in this light breeze. We see the helmsman taking his turn at the midship wheel. It was an easy job in fine weather, but in a storm, the two wheels sometimes had to be manned by 4 men. The crew are manning the brace winches and are slowly heaving round the rigging. Here we can see how the brace winches work. The brace wires are giving out on one side and coming in on the other side of the conical rolls of the winch. Conical because of automatically trimming the yards, that is, the lower and both the topsail yards. The topgallant yards and the royal yards were maneuvered by ordinary braces worked by hand from the deck. We can see the crew tightening the braces and sheeting home the lower courses on deck. The sailmaker, Walter Blomqvist, is making a new sail on deck. He made several trips in the Gustav Eriksson windjammers. A sailor is going out on a foot rope, the thin safety gangway between life and death. Two lady passengers are preparing for knitting, sitting on the forecastle head. The Dunkerman is working by his forge, assisted by a sailor, maybe making a new knife for the sailor instead of one lost overboard. The sails were made of first-class Webster's canvas of different numbers and thickness. The biggest and heaviest storm sails were made of double O, and the lighter ones of number 1 or 2. The sailmaker assistant is painting the name on a new sail. There is always something to paint when in fine weather. We see a sailor, probably a first voyager, climbing up to the top, to the truck, to show that he is by now a real sailor. Some used to show their courage by standing up on the top. Coming up into the Baltic, they are meeting a company ship, Gustav Eriksson's wooden bark, the Älekön, sailing to North Finland to load timber. Älekön was one of the last built wooden barks in the world. In the Åland Sea, they are met by a small sailing yacht with a waving girl at the bow. She is Gustav Eriksson's youngest daughter, Eva, greeting the Passat and her cousin, the master on board. Welcome home. The first granite skerries of Åland are happily in sight. Soon the Passat is sailing through the narrow passage by the entrance to Mariehamn, by the pilot station of Kobaklintar, where the pilot is boarding. From here it is about 6 nautical miles to the inner harbor of Mariehamn. Now it is time to start shortening sails before coming to anchor and berthing. Now starts the clewing up of sails and lowering yards, leaving only the spanker and some staysails for maneuvering purposes. We can follow the perfect system of handling the sails when rolling them up on the yards or belaying with the gaskets. We can see the lower courses and the topsail being secured and belayed up on the yards. It is to note that Passat has double jackstays. The one in front of the yard is for the sail to be fastened to, and the other on top of the yard is to secure the gaskets when belaying the sail. The top gallant yards and the royals had only a single jackstay, and the gaskets had to be taken round the yard. Many of the windjammers, as for instance the Archibald Russell, had only single jackstays all over. Then it was sometimes a difficult task to get the gaskets round the thick lower yards. You often needed a helping hand from your neighbors working beside you on the foot rope. Well, in this fine summer weather, it was quite an easy job to belay the sails neatly in ship-shape fashion, to roll them all the way up on the yard. It was altogether another struggle in bad weather, with the wet canvas stiff like tin plate. Then all hands were needed to secure the bigger sails. Now we see the sailors shift from one yard to the other, doing a magnificent job after learning the handling of sails when sailing around the world in all sorts of weather. Up she goes, upon the yard, all together. Passat is now safely at anchor and moored with her stern ashore at the home port for a month's rest before the next trip down to Australia starts. We can see the master and his wife on the gangway, probably waving at the owner coming on board from his small motorboat. Passat was laid up until the middle of September, when she sailed again for order to Port Lincoln in South Australia. She sailed in ballast via Copenhagen for provisioning and dry docking. Once in Australia, she found another cargo of wheat in bags waiting to be shipped in the old-fashioned way to Europe.